Hello and welcome to the Pretty Good Gaming Daily Triple, your no shit gaming news video. That's 3 news stories in one video with zero faff. After the official reveals of the Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S, the ball is very much in Sony's court when it comes to the next phase of the console war. The PS5 price is expected to be announced this Wednesday during the latest PS5 showcase, but Sony seems to be having other issues behind the scenes. According to Bloomberg, Sony has reduced its production target for the PS5 by 4 million units. The original projection was that 15 million PS5s would be sold by the end of March 2021, but now that target has been revised to 11 million. Bloomberg cites sources familiar with the matter, which say that this is due to the inconsistent production of the console's custom-designed system-on-chip. There have been multiple conflicting reports about the PS5's production cycle, with many suggesting that the system may launch with a limited supply, or that it may be sold as a loss due to ballooning production costs. The Peroni plague situation has no doubt impacted production, as the factories making the damn things have faced various difficulties over the past few months. According to Bloomberg, production yields for this custom system-on-chip thing have been down by as much as 50%, and yields are unstable. This has left Sony thinking that its original sales estimates were too high, and reducing them by 4 million units is a significant amount. Obviously, hoping to get 11 million is still a pretty high target, but 4 million units is a real big drop. Microsoft has been ahead of them in terms of setting up the next generation at pretty much every step of the way. The console was announced first, and recently the release date and price of 2 separate models have been announced. The Xbox Series X system itself is much more powerful based on most of its technical specs, apart from the SSD, which Sony believes is its ace in the hole, but all that remains to be seen. On paper, the Series X is the much more powerful system. The PS4 has been wildly more popular than the Xbox One for this generation, and that largely comes down to the number of games that are on the system. Going forward, this is where both systems are really going to struggle, as Xbox lost Halo as its only major exclusive title, and Sony has lost several other promising titles in the past few weeks. Recently, Arcane Studios' game Deathloop was pushed to next year, and just this week, Kena Bridge of Spirits has followed suit. Neither of those were first-party exclusives, but they were exciting new IPs, and have left the system with little to offer on day one beyond Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart and Spider-Man Miles Morales. But at least both of those are exclusives, which is something that can't be said for the Xbox Series X. Everything coming out on the Series X at launch can be played somewhere else. Unless you count Gears Tactics, as it's finally coming to console after being on PC since April. Honestly though, f*** all this other shit, I'm just glad I can finally play that game on Xbox One. Both new Xbox models, the Series X and Series S, are confirmed to release on the 10th of November for $500 and $300 respectively, with the latter being an incredible price for those who can't afford the full upgrade. The PS5 will most likely have a very similar release date, but if the price costs much more than that, it will be a disastrous start to the generation. The system will of course still have its fans no matter how much it costs, and it does still have the advantage of PS4's extensive back catalogue of exclusives, but I'm really interested to see what Sony shows off tomorrow. What would be your price limits and predictions for the PS5? I'd expect it to be equal or greater than the Xbox Series X price, but there's no way that thing costs less than $500 unless Sony also have a cheaper, lower performance model. But if that shit comes out at $600, then yikes, I don't see anyone buying that, and Xbox has won out the gate. And next up, Mario 3D All-Stars compiles 3 of the very best Mario games ever on Switch for the first time, which sounds like a dream come true. But the kicker here is that they will only be available for 6 months for absolutely no reason. I've already covered how bullshit all that is, and I'm sure many of you already agree, but some of the actual retailers are wising up to more of the problems with this game. UK website Base.com has cancelled all pre-orders of the game due to woefully short allocation of supplies. The site is a game retailer like Game in the UK, but is usually a slightly cheaper alternative. This became known after one buyer posted an email they received to Reset Era informing them about the cancellation. We have just been notified of our allocation of Super Mario 3D All-Stars Nintendo Switch, and it's woefully short. This is very disappointing, and it is with great regret that we have to inform you that we will no longer be able to fulfill your order on the day of release. Further, as Nintendo and their UK distributors are unable to give us any reassurance that more stock will become available after release, we have taken the regrettable decision to cancel all orders. All this basically means that Base.com has not been given an adequate amount of copies to sell to everyone who ordered, so rather than fulfilling some orders and not others, they've chosen to remove it from sale entirely. It's a simple case of supply not meeting demand, and it's safe to assume that demand for this game is pretty damn high. No doubt this limited supply is part of Nintendo's plan to drive up digital sales on its eShop, which is almost always the most expensive place to buy Switch games. Removing the game from sale on Base.com will force people to buy elsewhere, which won't be much of an issue for most people as it's only a couple more quid, but it's sad to see people driven towards mega corporations like Amazon rather than smaller businesses which actually offered a better deal. Now, Nintendo does have every right to sell its games however it wants and is entitled to limit production and distribution as it sees fit, but that doesn't make it good.
We're so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
It creates an artificial scarcity which seems like it will only hurt Nintendo in the long run as it fundamentally means fewer copies can be sold. I'm no business expert so I could have that totally wrong and please feel free to correct me, but that seems completely counterintuitive to me. Foster's Fever has likely had an impact on the production of physical copies of the game, but there are many other games that still managed to launch this year, and Nintendo is one of the biggest companies in the world, so it has all the resources it needs to throw at the problem. Again, Nintendo has every right to do what it wants, but that doesn't make it good, and it sure as hell doesn't mean that I have to like it. Mario Sunshine may be the best Mario game ever, but fuck 'em, I'm not buying into that shit. And finally, I often seem to cover cheating on this channel, especially when it involves cheaters getting caught, and it's become a favourite sort of mini segment of mine. The latest version of this story comes from Fall Guys, which has had problems with cheaters since day one. To solve these problems, developer Mediatonic has been sticking all the cheaters in one mode called Cheater Island. This was all explained in a very lengthy Twitter thread which chronicled the whole situation in a story called The Rise and Fall of Cheater Island. I'll try to quickly summarise it here, but I encourage you to read it for yourself. After testing their anti-cheat software from launch, Mediatonic set up Cheater Island in secret, which would put cheaters against each other on their own server. In order for Cheater Island to run, the session needed over 40 players, and without that, the cheaters were just left falling forever.
I have been falling for 30 minutes!
Players were only put on Cheat Island if the devs were 100% sure they were cheating, meaning that often the numbers were too low to even run the mode, despite the high volume of cheaters that are in the game. The thread shared a couple of videos which showed non-cheaters in what appears to be Cheater Island, meaning that the solution wasn't as watertight as they'd first hoped. Ultimately, this creative solution wasn't quite good enough for all the cheaters in Fall Guys, and many were outsmarting the system. This led to the demise of Cheater Island, as it couldn't contend with the sheer amount of cheating pricks in that game. Cheater Island may be gone, but the devs have now teamed up with Epic to use their anti-cheat software with the excellently named upcoming update, Big Yeetus and Anti-Cheatus. As I already said, read the whole thing if you want to know the full story, but I just love hearing about cheaters getting f***ed over by the devs they're f***ing over, and while it's a shame that this didn't stop them all, it's still a funny solution to an ongoing problem. And that's your lot for today. If you enjoyed this no shit format, go ahead and give the video a like to give it a boost, hit subscribe and the bell if you want to stay up to date on all future installments, toss a coin to your YouTuber over at patreon.com/prettygoodgaming. That's all for today. I've been Henry Cooper. Bye for now.